Project tasks are similar, though you do get a graphical view of your task with this. And issue tracking, it's just, again, a further customized task list. You can create surveys or like web polls. So this would be for voting on different topics. So, you can have maybe a lunch survey, or you might have a what's going to be our next topic for our next meeting survey, whatever you can think of. Some of the power with SharePoint, though, comes into the custom lists. A contacts list is just a custom list that already has the formatted fields that you would use for contacts. But any kind of list that you have anywhere in Excel, you can have as a custom list in SharePoint. It's basically a spreadsheet that's displayed with all the different columns and rows, and you can name them whatever you want. So anything, again, that you can have in Excel displayed, at least, you can't do the math formulas with this basic version. You can have displayed in SharePoint. And to make it easier, you can actually have it modified in a data view also, or data sheet view. This was the import spreadsheet function I had mentioned. If you wanted to take your contact list right from, say, Microsoft Outlook or an existing Excel spreadsheet that you've got, you would use this import spreadsheet, and that would create a web part with all your content right there. You can create a basic web page. So if you do have some web programming experience, you can have your own customizable web pages right within SharePoint. You can create a web part page, which is basically a blank page that's going to let you just add web parts to it, similar to what we saw when we started. And sites and workspaces. What we would use this for was for subsites. You'll notice that on the top left, we're looking at everything under Home, but I also have a demo. What you would use subsites for would be different sections, maybe different departments. So our home page might be the general agency page, but then under that we might have a subsite of personal lines, of commercial lines, of whatever other lines of business that you work with, maybe a marketing or a management team, maybe an IT issues subsite, training, and so forth. So subsites is where you build the layers onto your SharePoint and increase that depth for different parts of the business. So we'll go back to our home page now that you have an idea of what web parts are actually out there. I'll show you what it takes to add content to your web parts and manipulate them, and then we'll get into adding some more. So let's say we wanted to add a new announcement. Adding to any web part that you've got permission to is as simple as clicking the Add button right underneath it. So we'll click Add New Announcement, and we'll say, welcome to our webinar. And thank you everyone for attending. You've got all editing options that you can see here, pretty similar to a rich text email. So if we wanted to change the text color to red, we can do that. You can do indents, centering, so on and so forth. And I had mentioned a content expiration. If I choose this, now tomorrow this content's going to expire and the announcement will go away. I'll say OK, and you can see here's our content. It says, thank you, welcome to our webinar. Thanks for attending. If I click on the heading of this item itself, it'll actually take me into it. Because if you put lots and lots of details in the body of this item, they're not going to display on the front page. So that's what you would do with actually clicking on the item itself. From here, you can also edit the item if you wish. If you've got permissions, you can delete it. You can change permissions on it. And you can set up alerts. I'll go into alerts here and I'll show you what options there are. Now, alerts can be set up on a per item basis or on a per section basis. Very useful. What you can do here are all these options you see. You can send an alert when anything changes, when someone else changes the announcement, when somebody else changes an announcement created by me, and so on and so forth. So some useful things for this would be, say there's a procedure library for a certain department. I think you would want everyone in that department to be updated when the procedure library gets updated. It's always a good idea rather than leaving them to try to figure it out themselves. So if you create an announcement on that whole procedure library saying someone else changes an announcement, period, or even anything changes, they'll get an email notification, and that email will have a link that'll take them right to that part in the SharePoint. You can choose to have those emails sent immediately. People can get a daily summary, and what a daily summary is going to be is one email with all the list of details of what's changed, or a weekly summary. And if you choose the daily or weekly, you can set your times or your days and times. Of course, here as you're working on your own network, you'll have all your list of users. You can pick who those announcements go to by clicking Browse, typing in the user's name, and pressing Enter or clicking the search button. So you see here, here's my administrator. It shows my email address and all the details that your users would have set up on their network. So I'll set my weekly here. And for demo purposes, I don't have this one set up for email, but you get the idea. So there's our announcements, but let's say we don't want to just leave it called announcements. That sounds kind of dry and generic to me. You can modify any one of these web parts by clicking on the right top arrow, little drop down, and choose Modify Shared Web Part. You can change the view. Some items only have one view. But if we go under Appearance, you'll see here's our title. So I'm going to change this from Announcements to say, let's say these are the company bulletin. Note you also have options to change the height and width of the zones. Formatting wise, with people having different screens, it's usually best to say no, adjust the zone to fit height. If you look at further options, you can hide these. You can automatically change it from the left side to the right side if you want. Or you can change content from left to right, right to left. Under Advanced, you've got a few more features, whether you want to allow people to minimize or maximize or hide. You can change the description. So what we'll say is, these are our company bulletins. And we'll say OK. So now you'll see, now it's not called announcements, now it's called company bulletins. And when we mouse over it, we see our new description there. So you can do that with any web part, anywhere in SharePoint, again, as long as you have permission. And I keep saying as long as you have permission because SharePoint is very powerful permission-wise, where you can set up different permissions for different people or different groups on different sites or different libraries or even just different individual documents. What's recommended is as you're creating subsites, you do your permissions by subsite, and I'll show you how to do that as we go along here. But you'll probably set, say the department manager or one person per department as being the quote-unquote manager or updater of that section. Generally, you're not going to have one person, the agency IT person or whoever that is. You're not usually going to have them manage this content because it's more the people that are working in the department or managing the department that knows what needs to be there. So let's add something to our calendar. I'll show you some of the different options you have in calendars. So, say we're going to make this a company meeting schedule. So this might be our Friday tactical meeting, and the location will be main conference room. Again, a lot of the options that you're used to seeing right in Outlook. Start time, we'll say this is going to be an 11 a.m. to a 12 p.m. meeting. You can put, again, all your details here. You can choose to make it an all-day activity. You can make a repeating event, same as a recurrence in Outlook. So if you have a meeting every Friday morning, we'll say make this a repeating event, and we're going to make it weekly on every Friday. You can choose your start date, end date. Again, just like with Outlook, so it's nice that you don't have to learn a whole new set of options. And we'll say OK to this. So now you'll see it filled up our calendar with a whole bunch of tactical meetings because we made it recurring. If you want to view more events, you can click more events here, or you can click on the calendar heading itself. You see with the calendar, it'll open up right in a calendar view, and you'll see them all here. Now you can change the view of your calendar. Say you want to look at all